Hi, everyone. It's interesting. I've already got a couple of questions there from people. I appreciate those questions. You must have known I was about to go live. I guess StreamYard sets it up that way. So welcome, everybody. So today, I just wanted to answer a few questions live for you and see if I can help out with some of those questions you may have. And obviously also just explain a couple of things that that I've seen this week. Chuck Cook had sent me a declaration which was from the government, and it's got some interesting information in it. So I think that's probably worth going through. So let me just ask you, just hold your questions for the time being if you can. I just want to let's see. So hold your questions, yeah. So just hold your questions for a minute, and I'll come back to questions, I promise. But try and slow the questions down. And please, people, don't repeat questions over and over again, because it just floods it floods the stream with all sorts of stuff, and I can't get back to everybody's question. So let's spend a few minutes together and see how we can do. First thing I want to do is show you this declaration that came to me from Chuck Cook. Interesting declaration. Some of you may already have seen it. I think Curtis Morrison may have published this. I'm not sure. But Chuck Cook sent me this and asked me a question about it, or had a sort of hypothesis about it. What's interesting is this is a declaration from Morgan Miles, who is a director at KCC. And he has had to detail some of the activities they've done over the last year in terms of how much processing they've done. Now, in the old days, up until a couple of years ago, submitting the DS260 was the whole process. There was no submission of documents behind the scene. There was no department that you had to send documents to. So when you sent in your DS260, you and KCC processed that, and it doesn't take a lot of processing, but they took some time to process that. You then became documentarily qualified. Of course, nowadays, in the last couple of years, they've changed the goalposts, changed the rules a little bit. So now you have to also send in the documents. And the inefficiencies in that system are delaying a lot of cases, for sure, have delayed a lot of cases, not only this year, but also in the previous two DV lottery years. But just reading through the declaration here of Morgan Miles is kind of interesting. So one of the first points they put here is how many DS260s they opened. And these numbers are cases. They're not actual DS260s. They're DS260s of the principal applicant. It means that they open the principal applicant, and they can also look at other DS260s. But these numbers here are based on principal applicants. The first thing I want to show you is this. So in June of last year, during COVID, right? COVID hit the USA in March, in terms of when companies sent employees home and that sort of thing. So this was work being done remotely. And during June, they were able to open, not necessarily process, but open 5,072 DS260s, and then 7,000 in the month of July. And then in August and September, inexplicably, the numbers dropped down to 3,700, 3,100, 2,100 in October, 1,300 in November, 1,300 in December, 877 in January, 483 in February, and then it gears back up when the proclamation, the 10014 was revoked, which was, I think, February 22nd or 23rd. So they geared back up a little bit, but clearly what they did was they just told staff, don't bother processing documents, right? They got to the point where they had the first 12 or 15,000 DS260s opened, probably by case number order based on this declaration, and certainly by submission date as well, because you have to have submitted your DS260 for them to look at it. But then after a while, they just slowed all the work down. And there was, 6 months where they did very little work and nothing like their full capacity. And that's just DS260 processing, right? We know the documents processing was a complete shambles, always has been. They haven't managed to sort that process out at all, ever. Just a complete mess. But this is DS260s. Now let's just talk about the number of cases. This is just over 40,000 cases we're talking about here. So out of the 72,000 principal applicants, KCC are saying they opened the DS260 of nearly 41,000, about 40,500 cases, right? That's what these numbers are saying here. They opened them. They started to process them over the whole year. That would already be 75,000 people. And the admission, I think, that is in here is that when they say they opened those cases, there's no data in here that says how many were submitted. So we know that at least from the people that they opened, let alone submitted, there were more than enough cases to completely fill the 55,000 quota. There was no justification to go current based on the DS260 submission, which up until 2 years ago or 3 years ago was the point of documentarily qualified, right? And so that's one thing of note. They shouldn't have gone current. We know that. I knew that. I told you that. And I told you it would cause chaos, and it has, right? So they shouldn't have gone current. I'm glad they did it for high case numbers. But frankly, it introduced an unfairness and a disorganization that's just plagued us ever since. So that was a stupid decision. Number one. Number two, they've only opened 40,000 DS260s. How about the ones they didn't open? I'd like to see that number. So I've responded back to Chuck saying that would be a number we should see. How many were submitted? There were 72,000 principal applicants, 132,000 selectees, including all of the derivatives as well as the 72,000 principals. Now, we know not everybody tries to proceed with their case, and not everybody fills in their DS260, but how many did, right? This number is not the number of how many submitted. This is how many they opened, right? So the obvious point there is that there's probably some cases that were never opened, right? So that's the first thing. Secondly, you can see in here, sort of another point that I wanted to make to you here, you can see in here the numbers of cases that are already scheduled. And this data was taken from a few days ago. So they're saying, their report is saying, which roughly tallies with what we know through SaveDiversityVisa.org and Zarthisius's site. So they have scheduled 6,703 cases, which means about nearly 13,000 applicants. That we know, right? It also says that up until July 21, which is, it's a couple of weeks ago, there were more than nearly 10,000 cases, nearly 22,000 applicants, where they were documentarily qualified but not scheduled. So in addition to the 12, nearly 13,000 people that are scheduled, there's another 22,000 people that are documentarily qualified. And of course, they cannot be scheduled in the remaining time before September 30th. I've been explaining this for months. I think some people are just ignoring this obvious fact. But if you're not scheduled within the next week or two, you're not going to get scheduled. That's the reality, right? They won't continue to schedule in September, and there is not capacity, even in a full, healthy working system, which this is not. There is not capacity to schedule all of those cases. And that's just the cases that they've documentarily qualified. But if you add those two numbers together, so if you add the 9,800 to the 6,700, you've got about 16,500 cases that are either scheduled or documentarily qualified out of the 40,500 where they've opened the DS260. So they're admitting that they have failed to qualify 24,000 cases. They're admitting it right there, right? And again, that's only the cases where they opened the DS260. So 6,700 cases have been scheduled. I'm thrilled for those people. There will probably be a few more cases scheduled between now and let's say the next couple of weeks, but not very many, a few cases. So without the lawsuit achieving some sort of goal, or without the various lawsuits achieving some sort of goal and some sort of preservation of visas, etc., that we're going to see about 7,000 cases, or about maybe 15,000 people that get scheduled for interview, and many thousands of people will be left either in documentarily qualified, where they've been told you're ready for scheduling, but they're never going to get an interview unless the lawsuits win, or someone who sent in their DS260 wants to emigrate, wants to take advantage of their win, and never managed to get their documents processed by KCC for whatever reason. So, that's kind of interesting. I thought that information might be interesting to you, and I wanted to explain that. And it sort of brings into sharp focus exactly what is going on at KCC. Okay, so let me answer a few questions. Having said that, let's see. I'm going to go fairly quickly through these because, I'm going to try and be efficient and try and answer as many as I can. So how can I know how many people are in line before me in Egypt? You're AF 30,000, but you don't tell me the year. Make sure you tell me the year, the region, and the number, okay? Without that, the case number is useless to me. But I would say, generally, you don't need to know how many people are in front of you. And I don't have a good way for you to know how many people are in front of you in a particular country. I can get a rough guesstimate, but frankly, don't bother. It is not the point. If you're DV2022 and you think your case number is the point, you're missing the point about the chaos that's going on in the world right now with COVID and the impact on the DV lottery system and so on. It's far more important to know what's happening with COVID and how that will impact you than your position in line in Egypt. That's just not the point. Second, I'm waiting for a baby. Will be given birth in December. How could you join us? Okay, so I guess you are DV 2022. As soon as the baby is born, you should reopen your DS260. You should add the child to your DS260 and that of your partner, and you should create a DS260 for the child. All of that can happen before you could possibly be scheduled with a number like AF 30,000 in DV 2022. And so you've got time to do that. That's what you should do. Okay. ET Vlogs official. How do I know for 2022 high case number in my country for Ethiopia? No, I don't know the number in Ethiopia, but again, does it matter? Knowing the number doesn't allow you to know where you are in line. It gives you a rough idea, but it's not precise. Don't concern yourself with, nonsense, frankly. Keep life amend. DV 2021 selected married in church in 2018. Now when I went to civil marriage, they made date of marriage July 21. Will it affect? Okay. So it shouldn't affect you in a sense, right? So you did a married in church, I thought was legal, but perhaps I don't know the rules in your country, right? But if you considered yourself married, and if the country where you live considered you to be married from 2018, it would be smart to document that wedding that happened in 2018. If you were married in church, I'm sure there's some photos, some dated photos. Perhaps there was a celebration of some sort. Perhaps you sent invitations. Perhaps you had a honeymoon. Some proof that a wedding happened and that you had family there and that sort of thing. When you go to the interview, show all of that information to the consular officer. They may want to know that. And then the civil marriage that you took in July 2021 is sort of additional proof. And at that point, the consular officer is looking to someone that says, well, technically you weren't married by that church wedding because it's not legal or whatever, but I can see that you considered yourself married and that's why you entered as married, and you've now regularized that. And so in most cases, that would be acceptable. Rarely would they disqualify such a case. Thank you, Redneck Beard NK. Hi, Brit, says he. Thank you for that, David. Right, DV 2021 Europe. Can I change embassy now since the embassy is too busy? I guess we've actually got like two things going on, right? So we're here in the first week, at the end of the first week of August. And I just said a few moments ago, if you're not scheduled in the next week or two, you're not going to get scheduled. But for the lawsuits, right? The lawsuits could change things. But the only valuable thing from the lawsuits right now, the only remaining hope that most people by far have, if you understood the numbers I was explaining earlier, the only valuable decision that could come from Judge Mehta is a preservation of visas, giving us more time, more time into next year and perhaps the year after that for finishing off these cases from DV2020 and DV2021. Right, that would be the real valuable benefit. And I'm sure someone is about to say, "Oh, I can't wait for 2 years." Well, you'll bloody well wait. Right? You're waiting for a green card. You're not waiting for an ice cream. This is worth waiting for, and you will wait. And I'm sorry, I'm sure you're at the end of your patience, and I understand that. But this mess that we're in can't be sorted out for you overnight or for anyone, right? It's going to take time to sort it out. So, in reality, in this particular case, where you're asking, can you change your embassy? Frankly, there's no point at this point. Right, you're not going to change your embassy and get scheduled before the end of the 30th of September. However, when we get an order from Judge Mehta, if that is the right sort of order, then yes, you might be able to change your embassy at that time. And roughly speaking, there's two ways of doing it. If you haven't been scheduled yet, you ask KCC to schedule you at a different embassy. They may or may not do that, depending on your position and also what's going on in those countries, right? They will ask you for the reason why. If you give a good reason why, they may change you, and then they just schedule you at the new embassy. However, some embassies are saying they won't accept people from outside of their own country, and so KCC might not do that, right? The second way of doing things, if you've already been scheduled, which I think is unlikely, bearing in mind what you're saying, but if you have already been scheduled, then you need to organize things between the two embassies. And I've explained that in a frequently asked question on my blog, and I've explained how you ask. The embassy that you're at, we'll call country A. The embassy that you want to go to, you call country B. And so you speak to the embassy in country B and ask them, can they accept you? They say yes, hopefully, and then you also speak to country A and you ask them to transfer, and they, behind the scenes, transfer the case between the two embassies, and it doesn't involve KCC. Whereas if you haven't been scheduled yet, no other embassy knows anything about your case, and it's for KCC to move your embassy, right? Hope that makes sense. General, is there any hope for us? I don't know. I'm just going to say I don't know. You know very well we're waiting for Judge Mehta. I can't predict Judge Mehta's decision, and I'm not even going to try, right? I know what I want him to decide, but it doesn't mean that... I know what I want him to decide. I know what I think he should decide based on the legal argument so far, which I think has been on our side, but that doesn't mean I can predict what he will do, right? Nobody can. So there you go. Alexander says, received confirmation from KCC that I was ready for interview, ready for scheduling. So you're one of those 20, what is it? No, you're one of 16,000 people that have been told you're ready for scheduling. Yeah, embassy in Sarajevo, Bosnia, everything is working normally. No, everything is not working normally in Bosnia or any other embassy. They're following a prioritization scheme laid out that puts DV lottery low down in the list, right? What chances do you have for interview? Basically, if you don't already know, you've got almost no chance whatsoever. And I've just explained why. We're out of time. There's a few days of scheduling left, not very much more than that. In that declaration from Morgan Miles, they have said that they're prepared to schedule cases as late as a month before the interview, but it won't get much later than that. So we may have another. I suggest we have a week to 2 weeks where we might see interviews being arranged for DV 2021, but not more than that. and so it really depends on the lawsuit. Okay. Gav says, I never read your questions. I don't want to come to America anymore, so no question. Cheers. There you go. So now I read your question and you don't want to come to America. Well, moving on. Any update about DV2020? No, we're waiting for Judge Mehta. There is no deadline for Judge Mehta to make a decision about any case. You can't tell a judge when they have to make a decision, right? And so we just have to wait for Judge Mehta's decision. I'm afraid there's no other choice about that. Ramzav, hi Simon, hi Alvin. I'm one of the DV2021 winners from Liberia. Any good news about the interview? No good news. We're just waiting. So we're just waiting. DV2020 just answered that. Zinha, what does this mean? KCC DV would like to recall the message. Interesting. They'd like to recall the message. Okay, so when you send an email, what that means is they've sent an email to your email box, which you may or may not have read, and then at some point they've realized, oh, they've messed up. They put some wrong information in that email, so they want to recall the message. They want to take the message back. It's like they mailed you a letter, and then they turn up outside your house and take the letter out of your mailbox. It's like that. Now, you may have already read the email, in which case, you know the information. But if you didn't read the email, I don't know how your email system will work, whether it will let you find the email or not. So that's what it means. I don't know why they did that. I can't read their minds. DV2021 now. Should I send docs now or should I wait? Send them now. Send them now. No need to ask me this question anymore. Just send your documents, right? Send the bloody documents. Whether they've told you to send the documents or not, send the documents. And they'll be processed in case number order. We know that for a fact now. But nevertheless, you can send your documents. There's really no reason to ask me this question anymore. Police certificates are now valid for 2 years. So, one of the previous concerns I had was the fact that documents got too old, but now they're 2 years. They got 2 years validity. So go ahead and send them. Okay. What about DV2020? I already talked about that. Please do not forget to activate the slow mode to prevent flooding. Yeah, I did mean to do that, but I couldn't figure out how to do that in the application I use, which is called StreamYard. So yeah, but so far people are not being morons. Adrian, okay, there you go. We already just as we talked about that. Don't repeat your questions, please. I'm literally trying to go through every question here. Okay, so just don't do what you just did. Yummy Plus, KCC will contact me with DS260 email or DV application email. Oh, I see. So the email you give them in the DS260 is what they use after you've applied. Okay. ET Logs Official. You repeated it as well. Don't do that. MK Songs. Hey, Britt. Documents that have been translated, we have to separate it from the original one or combine into one PDF. I would combine that into one PDF. It doesn't really matter. You can do it both ways as long as you name the documents clearly so that they can understand what that is. But if I were them looking at your documents, I would like to see your document and the translation of the document. So, if you can do that, that would be better. I'm DV2022 winner, still waiting for the test result. Can I fill in DV2023? Yeah. When DV2023 entering period opens in October, yes, absolutely. You can enter again. No harm in that. No harm at all. Anyone can enter, right? I asked KCC to unlock my DS, but I think they'll take a long time. Can I submit my bloody documents before they unlock my DS? You can, as long as the documents are not going to change in any way, obviously, which they shouldn't. So, and the only examples of that would be if you are unlocking your DS260 to include a period of time when you lived in some other country, and that meant that you need to provide a police certificate from that other country, then theoretically it could change those documents. But other than that, no, you should be able to just send them the documents and it should be fine. They're taking at least 6 weeks to answer emails at the moment. So if you ask them to unlock your case, it will probably take 6 to 8 weeks before they unlock your case. That will go down, hopefully, over the next few weeks. But right now, that's the sort of backlog they got. It's a huge backlog. Oh, there you go. Got back from KCC to unlock DS260 after 6 weeks of waiting to get a reply. So there you go. SA37XX winner, no 2NL. So you're 2021. Do I think you have a chance? I don't know. I can't tell you. It really depends on when you became documentarily qualified, if you are documentarily qualified, and how your embassy is doing, etc. But as I just said in the early part of this video, you've only got a week or two before there's no chance of arranging any more DV2021 interviews. And then it becomes solely a matter of what happens in the lawsuit, right? I did this one, Samir. I already answered that. Hi. Do we still expect 2NLs? Yes, I think we do. I'm going to guess that we're going to see a few more emails this week and maybe the week after that. That's how I'm thinking things will go, but we'll have to see. Any update on DV2021? That's what I'm spending my whole morning on here. I applied for AOS and got an interview time, but no biometrics appointment. Is that normal? Yeah, it's kind of weird. The whole thing with biometrics is weird. You're right to sort of question it. Normally, the biometrics is done before the interview, but you used to be able to do a walk-in. But if you can, contact them and ask them when you can do your biometrics, and see if you can do a walk-in at a place where you can do the biometrics. Depending on where you live, it may be a different location to where you actually have your interview. So look into that and just push your own case, right? You've got time. You've got time. You ask KCC to unlock your DS260, says Basil, but I think they will take a long time. Oh, you already did that. You already asked that, right? Don't repeat. Why Cairo Embassy doesn't schedule interviews? I don't know. Some of the embassies are behaving badly. I can't answer for them. I don't know why they're doing that. But I can tell you the government has prioritized DV lottery cases in tier 4 out of 4 tiers. We're in the final tier, the lowest possible priority. So that's probably why. Yeah, I have to see. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you're repeating. Born in Abu Dhabi, 1991, have a birth certificate with UAE and lived there till 2007. Since then, I came to Pakistan. Can I apply for DV lottery? Yes, you can in October. Don't apply for it now. Don't apply for it at any other site other than dvprogram.state.gov. No other site is an official place to enter that lottery. So wait until October and then go to the website I just mentioned. Dear Lager and gentlemen, I think you mean ladies and gentlemen, but maybe you mean Lager, I don't know. Please send me an appointment in your embassy to get... Oh, really? I wish it were that simple. I wish I could send you an appointment, but I can't. It's not my job, I'm afraid. Okay, gentlemen. DV2021, 13100. Do I have the chance to change sponsor if I need to change my DS260? Don't misunderstand. Your sponsor is not necessarily the same as the address that you give in the DS260. The address you give in the DS260 is where you want your green card to be sent. It doesn't mean that the person at that address is your sponsor. All right? That's not the assumption. The sponsor can be a different person. It's not the address. It's not based on where you say you're going to live. Now, it could be the same person as where you're going to live, of course, but it could be a different person. And so you don't need to unlock your DS260 in order to change your sponsor if actually what you want to do is have a sponsor who fills in an I-134 for you and then have a different address where you want your green card sent, okay? So if, on the other hand, you want to change the address where your green card is sent, then you can do that at the interview, and you don't need to do that. You don't need to unlock your case in order to do that. You can do that at the interview. So yeah, be smart about that, right? I'm wondering if we should got some problems like 2020 and 21. Yeah. Okay, so you're asking, will DV2022 have some problems like DV2020 and DV2021 have? The answer is yes, of course. We've got a pandemic, a global pandemic going on. The rules that mean that DV lottery is being prioritized low have not been changed. There are lawsuits galore. There's about 10 lawsuits fighting the government at the moment about DV 2021. But right now, the behavior has not changed. And so, yes, DV 2022 is going to be affected. That's clear to me already. It should be clear to you. And, it'll only be by people put the bloody mask on, take your bloody vaccination, wash your bloody hands, keep your bloody distance, right? They should all be hashtags, because those are the things that we have to do. If people want a more sensible life where things just happen normally, we have to take care of this COVID crisis. And I'm sorry, I don't accept this argument that the COVID crisis is not the point, right? There is a lot of bad faith and bad action at the government, absolutely. But there is also a lot of impact from the COVID crisis that is going to continue. And whether it's an excuse or whether it's the reality, it doesn't really matter. The point is the COVID crisis continuing is going to continue to impact people, okay? So DV 2021 is dead. That's the update from Klojan. It's a fact now, thanks to Biden and his no immigration plan. There you go. That's Klojan's perspective. Not mine, but that's Klojan's perspective. Haval, I'm from Iraq and I winner of DV Lottery 2021. The government accepted my documents last year in 1215. Case number is 2350. Have a chance. Right, you say they accepted the documents. Did you get sent a? Did you get sent? I'm trying to see where you're from. Did you get sent a ready for scheduling email? Right. If you did, then you might get a 2-0 in the next couple of weeks. But I don't know what your embassy is doing. I don't know which country from you're on. Oh, you're from Iraq. Sorry, but are you in Iraq right now? And if you're in Iraq, you probably have no chance because, the embassy is not working, not cooperating, and other embassies around that region are not cooperating either. So you probably have no chance unless the lawsuit comes through. That's going to be your only chance for most people now. For almost, except for a few hundred people around the world, the only remaining chance is the lawsuits, right? So, should be clear. What's your opinion about my situation, says Osama. I'm Go plaintiff, but not DQ yet. I have 30,000, thanks. It's getting very late, right? I think Go, I've said before, the Go lawsuit is further advanced than any other lawsuit. So it may be that the Go case gets a final decision earlier than the other cases possible, right? In which case there might be some special activity done for the Go lawsuit plaintiffs in the final weeks of this year, right? But realistically, the most important thing at the moment is, obviously for you, would be to get an interview before the end of September. But for most people, by far, it's going to be to get a preservation of visas. That's what we need, right? Other than that, it's all speculation or somewhere. I can't sort of be specific about your case. Keep life in mind. You've already talked to me. Yatta Eric. I was interviewed last 2 weeks, and the interviewer gave me a 221G form, and I was told my case is under AP, and that will be contacted. Should I keep waiting or send them out? Either way, you do whatever you want. There's no harm in sending them an email asking them, what's the situation. They probably asked you. Did they ask you for documents? Did they ask you for some information, or are they just doing continued background checks? I don't know. I don't know anything about your case yet, but if they asked you for something, make sure you get that back to them as soon as possible. Don't waste your time, right? Hi, Gutachu. How you doing? When are we going to apply for DV 2020 green card? Well, you apply by filling in the DS260. And when? Now. Now would be a good time to fill in the DS260. What's your expectation towards DV 2020? I have no expectation. I'm just waiting for Meta, and that's what you should do too. Is there still hope for 2021? Okay, let me answer that one. I think I've explained it well enough. It really is about the lawsuit right now, with a little bit of time, a week or two left of scheduling of interviews. That's basically what we're waiting for. So it's mainly about the lawsuit right now. Lawsuits, I should say. Zainab, you mentioned the wrong education end date. Zainab, chosen university no degree instead of university degree. No, I see. Yeah, end date and chosen. Okay. The wrong education end date is not really a big problem. And it probably doesn't make any difference. You're going to provide all that information in the interview anyway. And that is only assuming that you're a principal applicant. If you're the derivative, then your education makes absolutely no difference. So it doesn't matter what you said. The pick list where you choose university no degree or university degree or some university or whatever, that pick list has no bearing on the form at all. Has no bearing on the process at all. That is completely unnecessary to update. It doesn't matter what you put in the original DV lottery entry as your education level in that pick list, and it doesn't matter what you put in the DS260. Please, people, don't worry about that stupid pick list question for what's your education level. It is purely there in both the entry and the DS260. It's purely there for analysis reasons of understanding what level of education people are in when they apply for the lottery or when they send in the DS260. That's all. That's the only reason. It's got no bearing on your case at all. Okay? Your son part. My son part of the DV2021 winner, but not received second message. Yeah, everybody's in that position, Catherine. It's a mess. I gave the numbers earlier, right? 6,700 people have been scheduled. 9,800 people are documentarily qualified, but there is no time to process or to interview those 9,800 cases. That's actually 22,000 people. There's no time. They're not all going to be interviewed. And then there are another 24,000 people that have sent in their DS260s, at least 24,000 cases rather. So that's 50,000 people approximately. And they're not documentarily qualified. So it's a bloody mess right now. So everyone's in a mess, right? And to top it all, the embassies are not working at full capacity. They're only allowing a few interviews for DV lottery. So it's just a mess. Okay. Adrian says, I'm sorry, I've missed one out. I'm trying not to miss any questions. That's literally what I'm trying to do. You've asked me many times. Oh, no. Perhaps not. I don't know. Is there any chance for AF 27,000? I don't know. Like I've said, are you documentarily qualified? When were you documentarily qualified? Is your embassy working? All right. And even if you give good answers about all those things, you probably don't have much chance unless the lawsuit wins for us. Okay. Adrian, waiting for a baby in December. Should you send your documents voluntarily, I think you mean, or wait until status change? Oh God, don't wait until your status change. No. The minute your baby is born, you want to get the birth certificate and a passport, and you want to adjust your DS260 as fast as possible. You don't want to wait, right? Don't wait for you to be current. You're going to introduce delay and complication into your case. So you don't wait a moment, right? You do that the next day. Baby's born, baby pops out like that. That's how babies pop out. And you're running to wherever you get the birth certificates from. And once you got your birth certificate, you're running to wherever you get the passports from. You want to get that done as quickly as possible, okay? And then you open your DS260. Same thing on marriage. Don't wait. People shouldn't be waiting to get married when they want to add a spouse to a case. And they should do that as fast as possible. But the minute they're married, before they leave on honeymoon, they should be reopening or opening their DS260 and adding the spouse. I don't understand why people wait. From Cameroon, we're still waiting for 2NL. Yep, Jose, everybody is. I heard that Judge Meta refused application for plaintiffs for VD, I think you mean DV 2020 and 2021. Is that true? No, it's just the same bullshit that flies around the internet all the time. Judge Meta denied one case, which was a really bad case, I have to say, filed by Nicolette Glazer. It was a daft, and that case was denied. But it was not. It's not. That case has nothing to do with the other cases. It's nothing like the other cases in DV 2020 or 2021. So it's got nothing to do with it. Why do all these rumors fly around? I don't understand. But anyway, Chewy TVW. I have a German umlaut AE in my name, but on my uni degree it's written as A. Don't you think anyone will care? No one will care. So basically, should I attach confirmation letter from my uni or that? No. Particularly if you're interviewing in Germany, they're perfectly used to umlauts, etc. But also in other countries, there's other, other letters of the alphabet that are commonly used in other countries, but not used in English. So you're just going to have the English version of your name. That's basically all that's going to happen. And so it'll be written as A in the American process. And over time, you'll get used to welcome to your new name. All right. Oh, man, I just jumped past a load of... I was doing so well. Now I've lost my place. Frustrating. So, Namal, you just repeated this question a ton of times, right? And it's annoying because now I just scroll past a bunch of messages. I can't read them. So here's what happens. Here's the answer to your question. Oh, and you're gone. So I think I had this one. Chewy, it's probably a repeat. So I'm going to start from here. From Iraq, I think we talked on this different person, Zubaida. From Iraq with you, case number is 2021. What is it? 21? I know what that means. KAS. I don't know. I don't know what number you're trying to say, but you're a 2022 Asia case, I guess. You asked to unlock your DS260 to change your interview location. Oh yeah, right. Okay, so in your DS260, the first time you fill in your DS260, you pick the embassy where you want to be interviewed. After you've done that, you can never change that, right? It doesn't matter if you unlock your case, you can never change the embassy selection in the DS260. The only people that can change that embassy selection is KCC. You have to ask them to do it. Having said that, they ignore it anyway, right? They schedule you based on your home address, your current location. So it's not like you can say, okay, I live in France, but I want to be interviewed in Sydney, Australia, because I really fancy going there. You can't just pick wherever you want to be interviewed. They interview you based on where you live. Now, if you've got some reason, like you know that you're going to be moving to this country in 3 months' time or something, and that's when you'll be interviewed, then you can contact KCC and ask them to pick that for you. And if you give a reasonable explanation, they will do that for you. They'll make a change, but that's the only time. Okay. 55,000 is 2022. Yeah. When have you got a chance for your interview, and when would it be? I don't know for the first question. I don't know for the second question. Your number is pretty high. It would normally be summer of next year, but of course, we don't know how processing is going to go over the next year because of everything, all the chaos going on. Okay, so I don't know. No predictions. Okay. 2022 winner here, AS 2000. I submitted the S260 late July. Will it affect my application in any way? Not really. I mean, it might have been a little bit late, if you like, but it's not like you can be late. So they've gone past your number and you then go to the back of the line. No, it's not like that. As soon as your DS260 is processed, they should ask you for documents, or you can send in documents proactively. As soon as your documents are processed with a low number like that, hopefully you would get scheduled. But don't think that a lot of people are going to be scheduled in October and November and December, because they won't be. We're not going to see a lot of DV2022 cases scheduled in the first 3 months of the year. It's just not going to happen. Let's be reasonable. Let's be logical. We're not suddenly going to see a different experience of DV 2022 than the DV 2021 crowd are going through right now. And if anything, there's going to be the normal delay. Okay, so patience is the order of the game, unfortunately. I want your opinion on my number case. I love these sort of questions. I want your opinion on my number case. 2022 AF 46K opinion. I like 46K more than I like, 108K. I mean, what opinion? You have to be clear in asking me questions. Otherwise, it's just a waste of my time and a waste of yours. Jumana says, AF 16,000, 2022. What do you think? I have sent my documents. What do I think? Another one. Try and be specific. I guess you're both of you and the previous asker, Kesai, are asking for, when will you get interviewed and all those sort of things. But I can't predict those things. So unless you've got a clear, specific question, which isn't, when will I get interviewed? I can't answer vague questions like what do you think? What's your opinion? Like, what do I think about what? What's my opinion about what? Be specific, right? Brengies, my last finished education was high school when I submitted DS260 for 2022. Now I finished my bachelor's degree. Don't unlock your DS260 to update that. When you submitted your DS260 on that day, your questions and your answers were right, okay? And you don't have to unlock because you changed your job, you finished off your education, you moved address. You don't really have to change for the moving address. Really, you don't have to unlock your DS260 because it was right on the day you sent it. Now, if you have to unlock it for something significant, like you get married or you have a baby or something like that, then at that time, you should be updating all of the other information you gave, because when you resubmit, that information should be accurate. But don't unlock just because you changed your job or you finished off your degree. You can deal with that at the interview, right? Ahmed got an email to send his documents. Question: I'm not able to get the police certificate from Qatar due to my current employer policies, such as document issuing is stopped. Ahmed, you need to get that sorted out. Unless Qatar say, unless the reciprocity page for Qatar says that you don't have to provide a police certificate or that it's unavailable, something like that, then you have to provide it. And so, it's not an excuse to say your employer is somehow slowing it up. You have to provide it. So go get that done, right? Figure out a way of doing that. But most importantly, follow the instructions on the reciprocity page and no other instructions, and document that you've followed the reciprocity page instructions for that country, right? Keep a track of what you've done if you hit a brick wall. And if you have to send documents with an explanation that says, I can't obtain my police certificate because, and here's the things I did according to the instructions from the reciprocity page, then that, you might be able to save your case that way. But otherwise, you can't proceed unless you can follow the procedure, right? Tadia says, can you help me? I was asked to submit and bring my baby's DS260 at the embassy after submitting. I was able to reschedule my appointment, but I don't know what to do. So at the embassy, you took a new baby. I hope this is a new baby and you hadn't just been relaxed, shall we say, about not submitting the DS260. But anyway, you now need to submit your DS260, right? You're asked to reschedule your appointment. So follow the instructions they gave you. They think they gave you adequate instructions to let you take the next step. So now you have to be proactive. And if you're not someone who can sort of cope with being proactive and figuring out what to do, find someone you trust locally that can help you through that process. Because I can't give you really clear, specific country-specific guidance on how to do things at this embassy or that embassy. So you need to have someone who you trust that you can go through that process with, and hopefully just figure it out. But like I said, the embassy thought you could do it. So they trusted in you, they believed in you. Try and make it work. Saman, case number is currently unavailable. I want to remove. Okay, so you're trying to get into your DS260. It says case number unavailable. That there's some reasons why that happened. I've got it on my blog on my frequently asked questions, and you're probably making a mistake in some of the numbers, some of the information you're entering into that page. Be very clear about the difference between a case number and a confirmation number. Be very sure to put the case number in the right format. Drop the leading zeros from the case number. Make sure you get your name right and your date of birth right and all of that, right? I do have a video, if you look at my YouTube video from a few weeks ago, where I've shown exactly how to go through that process. So just go and search through my videos, and it shows you how to make sure you're plugging in the right information. I would say don't keep endlessly trying to get into your DS260 because you'll block it. You'll get it locked, and you won't be able to unlock it very easily at all. So take a look at my videos, for goodness sake, right? Don't just keep doing what you're doing. You already asked me that. What is your assumption and prediction regarding how many visas will be issued in 2021 and 2022? I've already said what I expect for 2021, that we'll see maybe 15 or 16,000 people scheduled at the very most without any lawsuit impact, right? And out of that, about 90% of interviews get issued, roughly 85 to 90%. So that's what we'll see for 2021. For DV2022, I have no idea. And then but the big question is what happens in the lawsuit. That could mean that DV2021 processing continues for some months, maybe a couple of years after the end of the fiscal year, right? So that would obviously change things. But other than that, I can't predict it, right? Venezuela, bienvenido. 22 SA 500. Waiting for Charles' new passport and renewed passport. Can you get them in Venezuela at the moment? To be issued in approx a month. It sounds good. I didn't realize you can get them in Venezuela that easily at the moment. Still pending submission of the DS260. Is this okay? Okay, so probably the better thing for you to do would be to submit your DS260s for all of you. And for the child, you can put the passport of one of the parents for that child. It's wrong, and everyone knows that that's wrong, but it doesn't really matter. You can submit your DS260, they can process that, and then later on, you can unlock and correct it, or just deal with that at the interview, right? There's really no need to have the passport in your hand for the child to submit all of your DS260s. And you've got a pretty low case number, so I would, if I were you, I would submit your DS260 now. Samantha just told you what to do. Obey. I should have a name like that. I would like people to obey. They never do. 2021 AF 32,000. KCC requested documents. Not able to get the police stuff. Oh, damn it, we've already done the Qatar one. All trade channel. Man, like completely vague. So you submitted DS260 in June 20. When will you expect for supporting document? Are you telling me that since June of last year, 2020, you just sat there and waited for an email saying, please send in your supporting document? I hope you didn't do that. I don't know what to say, really. Send the bloody documents, obviously, as I've been saying for 6 months. I don't know. Obey already answered. I already answered that one. I already answered the German guy with the umlaut. You're in Qatar. Okay. Stefando 123. Last time we talked about wrapping of documents is rejected by some embassy. Discuss. Okay, by wrapping of documents you mean what's it called? Lamination. I think I've said all I can say about that. Some embassies don't like it. Some embassies don't mind it. I mean, I certainly personally wouldn't laminate documents. I would keep them safe. Yeah, sure. In a plastic file, I'd keep them waterproof and everything else. But some embassies, and I don't know which ones specifically, but some embassies will reject documents that are laminated, whereas other embassies are not bothered by it. But in general, why are you laminating documents? You know, trying to protect the documents, there's other ways to protect them. You don't have to laminate them. Obey, we talked about. Obey, don't do that. Oh my gosh. Okay, you're going to get the bad boy treatment there. Let's see. Eleanor, already talked about. Wow, I'm just getting repeated here things. Yummy Plus, I know you've repeated it, but I don't think I've answered you. AF 11,000, when will be the interview? I don't know. I already explained why. Can do matters. What's the meaning of documentarily qualified? Okay. It basically means that you've submitted your DS260 and they've processed that, and you've submitted your documents and they've processed those documents. And they believe that you have all the available documents that they've asked for, right? There's not the full list of documents. But anyway, at that point, you are documentarily qualified. You've done what you had to do in order to be scheduled for interview, right? That's what it means. Deepak, do you think there is a chance for 2020? I'm from Iraq. We just have to wait and see what Judge Mehta decides. I can't say any more than that. I keep repeating it. These are just repeated. Wow, just a bunch of repeated questions. It's a shame. This one, what about DV2021 lawsuit? Big case. Big case, I suppose you mean the good luck case of 24,000 people. It's proceeding. There's no answers on it yet. It's not as far advanced as the Go case because it was filed later. But they're making good arguments and they're fighting hard. We just have to let them fight. I can't predict what the outcome will be. Okay. Okay. Region AF. Kenya. What steps? It's such a sad question. You know, you say, what steps should the affected qualifiers take? So, you know, you should normally be scheduled, right? You've done all the things right. And, you know, normally I could say, look, fill in your DS260 and submit it and don't make a mistake, and then send in your documents and they'll process them. And hey presto, that means you would get an interview. But that's not the case at the moment because of all the problems at the embassies, etc., because of the limited number of interviews, etc. So it's a very sad thing. And you're saying, what steps can you take? Well, you've done everything you should have done. There's nothing more you can do. You can't force them to process or to schedule your case, unfortunately. So unfortunately, sadly, and frustratingly, you know, I understand the frustration that you must be going through, but there is nothing that you can do. You know, hopefully the lawsuit will have a positive impact, but unfortunately, that's all we can do at the moment. It's sad. Okay. Wow, it's like a bunch of people decided not only to ignore my request not to repeat questions, but actively thought it was a good idea to just keep repeating questions. It's frustrating. Okay. One of the first new questions. You're following from Togo. God bless me. Thank you. Already done that one. Hi, says NMK1. I'm really trying to go through every question here, but you know, but the repeated ones are annoying. Yeah, send your documents, right? So Maimuna, is it? Maimuna. Don't worry about them sending an email to send your documents, just send the documents, right? Ongre says, you saw Togo MC is doing really well. Yeah, it might continue into DV2022. Just be aware that the Delta variant of COVID is really surging right now. So, you know, things can change, things can go backwards. So, you know, I hope they don't, but they could do. Yeah, this is an interesting question that Albert's asking. He's asking if they've started processing DV2022. It's interesting because no, I don't think they have. I think they're focusing on DV2021, and that would be normal this time of year, that they're sort of trying to finish off DV2021. And it's one of the reasons that I generally expect a slow start in October for the next year, because they've put their efforts into the previous year. But I don't know for sure that they haven't started sending out or processing DV2022 cases and sending out document emails. They may have done, but I haven't heard of any cases, none, where they have actually asked for documents in DV2022. So if you know of that, please let me know. As somebody who likes my sense of humor. I have a 10-year-old sense of, the sense of humor of a 10-year-old. It's amazing. I'm a fully grown man, but there you go. Okay. 10, what's this one? 10, 20. I see, October 20th. Okay, so your AF 2021, 34,000, I should imagine you mean there. We normally match the number of X's with the number of zeros, so it's clear that your, for example, 34,000 would be 34XXX, right? It never had a response from KCC. US Embassy in Cameroon, I guess, is working full capacity. So Frank, unfortunately, they probably never got to your documents. Well, you said you never had response, so I don't even know if you sent your documents. But they may not even. So I said earlier they opened 40,000 DS260s. They may never have got to your DS260. It's really frustrating. I believe that number that they gave in the declaration is only cases opened, not cases submitted, and therefore more people, probably such as yourself, just had no chance. So again, like many others, your only chance now is to wait for the lawsuit. However, I would say, Frank, if you haven't sent your documents, send your documents, right? It won't harm to send your documents. It might cost you a few bucks in police certificates or whatever, but send your documents because you want to try and get documentarily qualified if you can. Okay. 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 Andrew, and I've been contacted for my police reports and other documents. Does this mean we're qualified, or should we give up? You've been qualified. No, you're not qualified, Andrew, until you've submitted your documents and they've processed them, right? But you're from Ghana, and basically without the lawsuit, you have no chance, right? The Ghana embassy never really got up to full speed. They have done some interviews, but let's face it, they would normally do 2,000 interviews, and there's nothing like that number have been done. So there's probably a lot of people, Ghanaians, that are documentarily qualified, ready for interview, and have not been scheduled. So if you're not even DQ right now, you don't have a normal chance unless the lawsuit actually gets us a win and gets us more time. Okay. Hannah why Uncle Sardar caught corona, and why was she talking about it in a, I don't know, what the hell? I don't know what you're talking about, but lots of people have caught corona. Don't know what that is. Manai. Okay, so you're a principal applicant. Your spouse's name in her passport is her maiden name plus your name. Yeah, they do that in Spain as well. So your name is Manai Sofiane, and so instead of changing her name, she has her name and your name connected, right? And that's in her passport. Okay, but other documents, only her maiden name appears. Yeah, of course. Like her birth certificate probably only has her maiden name because she wasn't married at birth, right? So Same for education certificates. When she was going through education, she probably wasn't married at that point. So it makes sense, right? It's not a problem. You don't need to do anything. You just need to submit the documents you've got. It's perfectly understandable that those documents would be named with her maiden name if they're documenting things that happened before she was married, right? Ayub is asking, what are the conditions that have been changed in 2022 about education work experience? Nothing's changed. Yeah, I don't know why people are getting worked up about that. I've seen a few things about that, but there's been no changes. The law has not changed. So it is what it is. Darn it. Now StreamYard jumps on again because now this guy has asked that question many times. And so my whole system just went wacky. Oh, frustrating. Really? I should start writing down names of people that do this like this. So I make sure to not answer your questions in future videos. Don't do this, right? I'm serious. Stop doing this. It's annoying. It's stupid. It messes things up for everybody. Okay, so Frank. Oh, good. Okay, so we spoke earlier, Frank. You took the advice and you sent the documents since May. Unfortunately, when I really started pushing the documents, I started pushing the Send the Bloody Documents campaign. I think it started in February. I was telling people in December and January, some people, to send the documents. By the time you got that message in May, it's probably too late by that time that those documents would have been processed. And even if they were processed, they're scheduling interviews from people who were documentarily qualified earlier in the year, in December and perhaps January, etc., not people who got DQ'd later on. So it's frustrating. There's a question I'm often asked is, if you win the lottery, how long does it take to move to America? People need to understand this is a slow process, right? So if you enter the lottery in October, for example, October this year, you'll find out if you're a winner in about May of next year. That's 2022. Processing for the very earliest cases would start in October of that year, and some people would be processed a year after that, so September of 2023. And so some people won't enter the USA from that process starting this year until 2024, right? So the earliest you could enter is something like a year from after you enter, and probably up to 2 to 2.5 years, after you enter the lottery. So it takes a long time. It's a slow process. There's not a fast solution to anything. It's also not a plan. It's a lottery, right? Boomer, your nephew is DV2022 or 2020 EU47. There we go. Will the lawsuit cover him if it's successful? Yes. The DV2020 case, which is called the Gomez case, and there are some associated cases, that's a class action, meaning it covers everybody who wasn't processed in that case. However, the judge only reserved 9,095 visas, so not everybody can be successful from DV 2020 unless he agrees to give more visas. But even before that, will he allow any of the visas to be issued? So, possibly your nephew might have a chance, but it's by no means guaranteed. Okay. All right. One or two more questions. What dates are the VBs released monthly? Generally in the middle of the month, around about the 15th. It can be a little bit earlier than that sometimes, and it can be as late as the 22nd, 23rd, 24th even, I've seen. So it's around about that time. Okay. I want to answer this one. Masab, can an embassy accept immigration cases during the month of September? Do you expect that? Right. There needs to be a gap between when they schedule the interview and when the interview takes place. And that gap, they're saying in the declaration that I showed earlier, they've reduced that gap to around about 4 weeks in some cases. But it can't be much shorter than that, maybe 3 weeks or so, because before you go for the interview, you have to have your medical. And the doctors aren't just sitting around smoking cigarettes waiting for you to turn up. They're busy. So, when you get the 2NL, you have to get your documents together that you'll need for the interview, but you also have to go and have a medical, and the medical report needs to be completed, etc. And all of that has to happen before your interview. So it's not like they're going to be scheduling interviews on, still sending out 2NLs in September, mid-September for, to be done at the end of the year, end of the month. It won't happen like that. There's going to have to be a gap, right? And, so we might see some continue for a few weeks from now, but I think it's not that likely. Okay. Let's see. Judge Mehta knows that the fiscal year ends on September. I didn't understand what he's waiting to make a decision. Okay, let's answer this one. This will probably be my last one. So this is a question a lot of people are sort of asking. It's like, why isn't he rushing to make his decision? Well, one of the things he's doing is, and I'm not defending his slow decision-making process, but if we look at what he did in DV2020, he's sort of doing the same thing. In DV2020, the lawsuit was filed in, I think, May or June. We got the first order on September 4th of last year. There was another order that came out on September 14th. And in both of those orders, he was getting the government to do things as quickly as possible. So he could, for example, do like he did last year and issue an order to say to the government, come on, rush, get on and do with whatever you can. But the conditions this year are different to last year, and Judge Mehta referred to that in the last hearing. Last year, no interviews were happening, and so the September 4th and the September 14th orders from Judge Mehta were to make some visa interviews happen. But the visa interviews are happening at the moment, and so from Judge Mehta's point of view, he doesn't feel the same need to rush that he did last year. And even last year, he didn't really rush. And then on September 30th of last year, he made the preservation of orders, preservation of visas order. And so he preserved for later issuance a number of visas, 9,095. Now, he could be thinking he'll do the same thing again this year. He could say, okay, I'll let the government continue to work. They schedule as many cases as they can up until the end of 2021. And then he, Judge Mehta, would take a decision based on how much the government had got done. They haven't done enough. It's very clear they haven't done enough. But Judge Mehta is going to try and weigh whether he feels they did enough considering COVID, or whether they could have done more despite COVID, right? And I think he would make that latter decision. I think he would decide that they should have done more, and therefore he could preserve more visas. But he won't do that until the last day of the year, probably, right? September 30th, or whatever is the last working day of the year. He doesn't really need to. As long as he does it on that day, that's good enough, right? That's his perspective, based on what he did last year. So you're asking, why is he delaying his decision? It's because he doesn't really need to rush. That's why. I thought, my guess was that he was going to issue an order for the Go case before August, before the beginning of August, or in the first few days of August, but he didn't do that. And he might do it in the very next few days, but we know he's already told us that he's very, very blocked up and busy during August, right? So I don't expect much to come out of him in August. So I think we'll just continue as we are, with KCC and the embassies doing what they can do until the end of September. And then I think, I hope that Judge Mehta then issues an order pretty late in the day at the end of September. That's what I think is going to happen. Okay, I hope that's clear. All right, it's been quite a long session, so so I think I'll end the session here now. But thanks for all that attended. No thanks at all to those people that repeated their questions multiple times. Please stop doing that. It's really frustrating. And I really tried to answer all the questions, but at some point those repeated questions just stopped me doing that, because it messes up my system here. So hopefully I answered as many as you really needed to be answered. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining me today. Have a great weekend. All right, bye-bye.